if I told you he wasn't the greatest? That a country would fail to protect its greatest natural resource? That sometimes it is a matter of life and death? That no one can outrun the truth?
I told you that not all wounds heal. That sometimes the worst scars are the ones you can't see. That slavery leaves wounds deeper than just the surface. And that freed slaves were never truly free.
Looking at the novel Beloved through the archetypal lens reveals many different archetypes. The one that promotes the most understanding of the novel is the unhealable wound.
The unhealable wound can be a physical or emotional scar that sticks with a character for the rest of their life, inflicting a severe negative impact. This is seen across literature in all forms. One example of this archetype is from the novel The Things They Carried. In the novel, Norman Boker returns from the war with severe depression and eventually commits suicide. This was due to the war as a whole, and also because he felt responsible for the death of his friend Kiowa. The novel is quoted saying that when a man died, there had to be blame. Jimmy Cross understood this. You could blame the war. A moment of carelessness or bad judgment or plain stupidity carried consequences that lasted forever. This was an emotional wound that Norman could never heal from.
Just like many other athletes we've seen, Setha is unable to recover from her unhealable wound. Her wound, caused directly and indirectly by slavery. Setha's wound has caused her to commit unspeakable and unthinkable acts, including the murder of one of her children.
On our road trip to see some of the most promising prospects from the Ohio State Buckeyes, we had an interesting encounter with Setha's former neighbor, Stan.
I knew Setha for years, and she never really acclimated to normal life after slavery. But really, who did? It's a terrible system for anyone, but it hit her especially hard, I believe. She had a husband and kids, and couldn't look out for just herself. I'll still never agree with what she did, but after I recall her saying, if I hadn't killed Beloved, she would have died. The fact that Setha would resort to murder rather than allowing her children to be taken into slavery demonstrates how traumatizing that experience was for her.
This wasn't the only time a mother felt it was the right decision to end the lives of her own children rather than allow them to grow up in bondage. Margaret Garner killed 2 of her children immediately before she was taken back to the plantation, and she did not regret this decision. After murdering her children, Margaret stated, I have done the best I could. She saw no better option.
Paul D., thanks for coming on the set. Now, before we start, our viewers were actually curious. Did you play any football back in your day? A little bit. Fantastic. Let's get into it. Why would you say maybe that Setha was more affected by slavery than maybe you or other slaves?
Well, everyone suffers in different ways, but what stands out about Setha is that she's a mother. She has other human beings to worry about. Setha's rape was especially terrifying for her, not only because it affected her, but because it affected her children. She was traumatized that her milk was stolen by these men, and for the rest of her life, became obsessed with getting her milk to her children. She once said to Beloved, only me had your milk, and God do what he would, I was going to get it to you. You remember that, don't you? That I did that when I got here. I had milk enough for all.
Interesting. Would you say that milk is actually a symbol of Setha's motherhood?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming on, Paul.
The unhealable wound in the novel Beloved is extremely important and helps us see the long-lasting and terrible effects of slavery. According to theconversation.com, racism affects the mental health of blacks as well as whites. We must use Setha in her struggle and her unhealable wound as an example to never repeat racism and to prevent issues of racism in our country and around the world. I'm ESPN analyst Patrick Gillis. Thank you for watching.